Okay, well, welcome everybody to the meeting of the Davenport Housing Commission, Monday, January 11th, 2021 at 4 o'clock p.m. I'll start with the roll, and I won't go in any particular order. I think last time I went to my left to left, so this time I'll say Joyce Miller,
Here.
Gary Susich,
Here.
Yolanda Roberts,
Here.
and Jessica Richards.
Here.
And I'm Matt Wissing, so we have a full house this time, which was nice since last month when I pulled in the parking lot. The parking lot was empty and I checked my phone and it was a text from Destiny. And said by chance I ran into Yolanda half an hour earlier and she was planning to be, but she got word quicker than I was since I was driving, I guess, so. Yes, luckily it all worked out, and Gary, I hope you're healed up after your fall, and
Hey, you hike. My place is an intersection. I tried to step over the big snowbank and didn't quite make it.
well, I was planning to be here at about halftime of the Iowa football game, which got canceled, so then just having to dig out that day, I wasn't sure I would after breaking 2 shovels.
Oh, wow.
So, anyway, that's life in the Midwest.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll start with minutes from the November meeting. If people have had a chance to take a look at them, have any questions or comments or corrections, please speak up.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Great, it's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes of the November meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, hearing none. They are approved. Now we'll go on to the financial reports for the month of November. This packet's so thick, I just popped that, popped the paper clip off of there, so. Once again, asking if there's any questions or comments, or asking if Destiny has anything to add.
Nothing really that pops out to me, unless you guys have any questions.
Okay. Since I guess that's about half the, or not quite half the fiscal year. Looks like things are in balance, so if there's no other questions, comments, I'll ask for approval of the financial report for November.
Make a motion to approve the financials for November.
Second.
Great. It's been approved and seconded to approve the financial report for the month of November. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Those pass. Now we'll move on to the occupancy report for the month of, well, I guess that's the month of November. Yes, I just saw the December date, but
The 2-bedroom for public housing is actually in the midst of being filled. That's the 747 West 61st. That's a 2-bedroom. She's working on that one, just waiting on a background check. And then the 3-bedroom, she just sent out 10 more applications, so she's just waiting for some responses on those for the public housing. For the Heritage, we've had a couple deaths. One of these tenants purchased a home, and then one person was terminated. So that's the 4 vacancies that we have at the Heritage. And Section 8, we're right on target. I think we actually ended the year with like $1,000 to the good. It was the closest I think we've ever been. I had a lot of discussions with HUD on that, but we did fine. So we're looking good for this year for Section 8.
Yes, I think it was right about that time frame. There was, and I didn't quite hear you, I was reading, but that there was the death of during the fire down at the Heritage.
Yeah, I don't know.
And,
That one's not on here because this was
I mean,
done
death is
prior.
bad enough, but I know often when those, sprinklers go off, it causes a lot of troubles for things underneath.
Yeah, that happened on second floor. So the only thing it affected was our laundry room.
Oh, that's
And
fine.
thankfully it didn't put any, I mean, the washers and dryers are all fine. Just, we had some ceiling tile and flooring that has to be replaced.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay, I didn't know what, I just heard on the news and that's where it was. So I just remember from years past when the sprinklers have gone off, they've done their job, but they
Yeah, it causes,
caused some other
yeah,
problems
it causes a
too,
lot of
so-
problems, yeah.
Did they find out what was the cause of the fire?
I think it was undetermined for sure. I think they're pretty sure it's from smoking and alcohol.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other questions on that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the occupancy report for the month of November.
I move that we accept the occupancy report for November.
Second.
Great. It's been moved and seconded to approve the occupancy report for the month of November. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's been passed. Now we'll go on to this, our resolution here, 2020-03, Foster Youth to Independence Housing Collaboration. I mean, it's fairly short, but do you want to explain that, Destiny? I remember I asked you about it one time to break it down, but it is pretty broken down.
Yeah, so this, I know we've discussed a couple months ago that we were looking into adding this to our program. So we'll be in with the Section 8 program where the youth will get a voucher for housing, just like the Section 8 based off their income. That first paragraph there shows that they have to be at least 18 years of age and not more than 24. They must have left foster care or will leave foster care within 90 days and be homeless or at risk of being homeless. So it's just another part of the Section 8 program that we're looking to add to help the children in need. I shouldn't say children anymore because they're 18, but
Right.
Young
younger,
adults.
younger adults.
If you're yours, they're still kids, so. Yeah, I know that's just from being involved in stuff in the community in the past. That's something that advocates have been pushing for quite some time, because that gap time between being
Yeah.
17 and a half and being an adult can cause some trouble, so I think that's,
I don't know if you guys have any questions about it.
I do.
okay. Go ahead.
Renewal.
Is your mic on? I can barely hear you. I'm sorry.
Is it the
Why don't you just
green
move it a
top?
little closer?
Uh-uh. I mean, I can, but barely.
I
Hello,
think
There you
that's
go.
on now.
okay. What are the dates for the renewal year to year?
It will depend on when they lease up.
So the program itself is not renewed, is not looked at year to year?
No, it's an ongoing program that we'll have. And we get, I believe it's 20 vouchers a year.
20 or 25?
Yeah.
Yeah,
25.
25, okay. I was gonna say, I knew it was right around the 20.
And what would prevent them from being renewed?
It'd just be like any other tenant that they're subject to the rules of the program. So if they didn't follow the rules of the program, then, you know, they could be put up for termination at that time, where they would go through the same appeal process that our current voucher holders have. They go before an administrative law judge to determine if in fact they've broken any rules. So they, you know, they have to report their income, they have to
Yeah, yeah.
report household members, you know, no illegal activity.
That just.
So I think I'm kind of confused then, because this is the term of this MOU shall commence on December 1st, 2020 and end on June 30th, 2021. That's the
Where-
program, correct?
Where are you at?
It's the first page.
It's
of
the first page.
In terms.
So I think it's just saying that if we would choose not to renew, then we'd have to do so prior to December 31st.
Okay, so my question was, because in this term, from what I'm reading, and I could be interpreting it incorrectly, says this MOU will be automatically renewed from date to year thereafter unless either party given written notice. So the party is the young adults in this program, or is it the program itself?
The program itself renews. That's what this is saying, that the program itself will automatically renew. The youth that are in this program will stay on this program until, is it 25, or before they turn 26, then they can receive a regular Section 8 voucher. They would fall off of this program, the Foster and Youth Initiative, and they would go to a regular voucher for Section 8.
So the program itself renews every year from the time that the young adult signs up and is accepted for this program?
The program itself is just for 18 to 24.
I think what she's
But-
asking is like how, I mean, automatically renewal. When do you guys automatically renewal the program?
It automatically renews at that June 30th, I think it is.
Okay.
Okay, because, yeah, that was my original question, and I think I was thrown off because you said, because after that, then you said that the way that they would not be renewed is if they violated some type of, but I was talking about the program itself.
Okay, sorry. Yep, that's where I misunderstood you. Yeah, so the individuals renew at
Right,
their.
yeah, but I'm-
But the program itself will automatically renew unless we let them know prior to December 31st.
So then what would be what would be?
Oh, what would be the reason why we won it?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I mean,
I got you.
I don't know for sure why we won it,
Okay.
unless for some reason the city had an issue or there was, you know, I don't know why there would be a reason why we wouldn't do this program unless, because we do have to work with other agencies to fulfill this program requirement. So if for some reason that wasn't going well, we, you know, I mean, I can't imagine that. we
Would you ever
wouldn't.
not renew it because, and I'm sure there is, I know there's a need for it, but if there's not enough participants in the
I
program?
mean, I don't see why that would be a stipulation. Even if we had one person on it, we're still helping that one family. I mean, I can't see that they would say, no, you don't qualify for this program. You know, if HUD for some reason would tell us that we wouldn't qualify for it, I mean, that, you know, is one thing, but I can't imagine that they would come back and say that.
Okay.
You can go ahead, Bruce.
Oh, I was just gonna, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interlope, but I was just gonna say, I suppose hypothetically, there may be something, you know, 2 or 3 years from now, what if there's no, I don't know, administrative support or something, or the HUD changes the conditions that makes it, you know, problematic for us to want to continue it, I suppose there, you know, that'd be a reason why we might say, now we'd like to opt out of having, you know, this program as something that we
Okay.
offer, but yeah, right now, it seems like a great opportunity
Yeah.
and, you know,
Definitely.
kind of like VASH, you know, it just kind of keeps continuing, and as long as VASH occupants and residents qualify and we have voucher authority, you know, yeah, why wouldn't we keep it going? So.
And how is this advertised?
We have to collaborate with the, like on the last page of this.
I must have missed that.
So this has to be signed off by our office as well as the Department of Human Services, and that's who we will work with. They actually will do the intake on these individuals, and then they will let us know that they qualify for the program.
I'm saying advertised is like, will people that are in foster care, that are reaching a certain age, will their foster care parents be notified through the agency that they work with? Would it be like on a website? Is it
Yeah,
on a
that's all
newspaper?
through the Department of Human Services. We don't get involved in any part of the advertising of it or anything.
Okay.
They go through the Department of Human Services and then get sent to us, you know, so it's just like our BASH program. It's the same way that that's handled. You know, I'm sure if we are allowed, I don't know exactly how this is gonna work yet, but we could also, you know, we could throw something out there on social media or something on our part, but we aren't the ones seeking these individuals. They go through Human Services and then they get recommended to us from there.
I just had a quick question. If you were to not renew this program, how long of a time would you give the people that are participating in this time to know that they're not going to be part of the program anymore?
Well, this says we have to notify HUD by December 31st.
I mean, the
For the end of
individuals.
June 30th. So I would imagine, you know, I haven't looked into it that far as to how we would not run the program, because I've only been looking into how we would run the program. So, you know, I'm sure HUD has rules, just as they do with anything, if you're taking away someone's housing, that you have to follow through on. You know, maybe we'd give them a Section 8 voucher, regular, you know, I don't know. I've not looked at how we would get out of the program at all, so I don't know
This is more along the
how we
lines
would.
of just getting it going and everything like that.
Yeah, everything's been focused on how we get this program up and running. It hasn't been on how we get out of running it.
Well, I don't think that's what our question
That was
was.
not my question. That was not my
Jeez.
question.
Sorry.
No, I just want to know if the individuals, like how far in advance they would know if the program were to stop, so they could make accommodations. That's what I was wondering.
That's okay. She doesn't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know what our rules would be on that. We would have to give them some kind of notice to let them know that we were no longer going to run the program, but I don't know what that time stipulation would be.
Will that information be available later on?
I could certainly ask HUD about it.
I'm sorry, I would-
Let me just make sure I'm understanding. You're wanting to know if we would decide not to run this program, how long we would give the individuals, how much notice we would give the individuals that are on the program
Correct.
notice?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was
That's all,
understanding.
that's all. I mean, I'm not saying that we're gonna stop the program or anything like that. I just would like to know, because once you get into something, like Section 8 always gives you a lot of information and lets you know like the ins and outs and everything. Kiddos, they're kiddos to me, 18 to 24, I mean, they're gonna be bombarded with a lot of information as well, and this is a very skeleton, bare bones, you know, policy right now. So I was just wondering, if that information was gonna be made available to them so they could have it for reference.
For whatever it's worth, and I'll just, by the way, I'm Bruce Berger too, I guess I don't have a placard up, so just make sure you guys know, who is this guy? Why is this guy with Community and Economic Development? My guess is, I mean, again, it seems unlikely that we would terminate, you know, and cease to participate in the program anyway. But further, if it helps any, this program operates, and Destiny can correct me, very much like Section 8. So, I mean, essentially it is a Section 8 voucher. It's just sort of like, almost like a local preference for this one particular group that DHS and HUD are partnering with at the national level. So they've done it in lots of different cities around. It's working fairly well for the last few years. So our guess would be that they've, you know, I'm sure there's an answer out there. We just don't know what the HUD policy is. But like Section 8, if we were going off the program, I'm sure HUD has a whole stair-step down process where, you know, it might even be a 3 to 6 month process where everybody gets notified that we're no longer going to be operating the program, that kind of thing. But we'll check into that and find out. It's unlikely because they're really advocating that we sign up for it, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty
I think it's fantastic.
streamlined to run, so.
Do you guys have a liaison with DHS that you are going through with us?
Yeah, a couple of folks, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's who also has to sign off on this is Lori Frick.
Yeah.
But we've been working with several different HUD people and DHS, and I've talked to other housing authorities that are currently running this program to get this all processed.
Okay, do we have any other questions about this? I think the ones I was gonna ask got asked and answered by Yolanda and Jessica, so. So we have to do a final vote on this, that's correct, Destiny?
Yeah, it's a
Because I
resolution.
know the last. Okay, well, I'll ask for a motion to accept the resolution 2020-03, resolution supporting a foster youth to independence housing collaboration program.
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this resolution 2020-03. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that's passes.
And Matt, I will need your signature on the resolution and then
Just read my mind.
And then
I was marking
also-
it off here, so.
on the
I
memorandum.
forgot one other meeting when we had one of these, which we don't too often, and
Did you see it on the on the last page of the memorandum as well?
I didn't get that far through, so.
Okay. I need both of those if you don't mind.
Yes, that's where I was marking that I saw my name on there, so. Actually, the last one we forgot, I didn't even need to sign. It just had to be signed by the mayor. That was
Right.
within the
right.
last year, I think. Okay, so now we'll move on to topic 5, discussion of the public housing disposition plan. I'm assuming that's why Bruce is here to walk us through this.
Yes. So I know we've talked about, I think, some pieces of this before. I'll back up a little bit on it and then let me know if, wave your arms if we've already covered that and get you out of here sooner. I know I don't want to keep you, but the idea of, and what's on front of you really is part of, is it's labeled the public housing disposition plan, is this idea that we have 21 scattered site properties that are those, we have 8 single-family houses, we have 11 duplexes, and we have 2 sixplexes that make up the public housing units, those 42 units. City Council was exploring selling both those and the Heritage, if you recall, and then after some exploring of the market, realized that there are different buyer pools for the Heritage than there are for the scattered site properties. And so, in the direction we had from council was to explore both from tenants who might be ready to become homeowners who are currently living there, but realizing that may or may not be the case, really explore with our local nonprofits on keeping them affordable housing, but accomplishing the mission, which is they would cease to be public housing units owned by the city, but they would remain affordable housing by a local nonprofit, or a collection of nonprofits. So I can't remember if we talked about this when we last spoke, but what's happened, I believe it was in late October, we received a letter of interest from 3 nonprofits, all local, and it's identified, you can see there in this relocation plan. The 3 are Vera French Housing, Ecumenical Development Housing Group, and Habitat for Humanity. They submitted under one umbrella LOI, and they'd like to partner together, the 3 of them, to figure out the details pending you know, if this goes forward. And part of the process going forward, not to belabor the bureaucracy, but is the document you see in your packet there, which is the relocation plan, to apply to HUD to dispose of these 21 properties. And by dispose, they call that selling. In some communities, they're demolishing, and, you know, I mean, they're different definitions of what dispose can, the umbrella can be, but in our case, disposing just means to sell those to another buyer, to, in this case, to these 3 nonprofits, and perhaps 1 tenant. And so, through the fall, we solicited LOIs from the tenants as well. We did receive 1 tentative LOI. We're not sure if they're going to be quite ready for homeownership yet. But, you know, they have the opportunity to. We're meeting with the tenants actually later this week. And so we'll have a chance to kind of explore that, just to see if any of that has changed. In theory, I mean, if 2 or 3 wanted to and were ready for homeownership and we could negotiate a price, that could still happen. But for the rest of this quick discussion today, I'm going to presume it's basically going to be the 3 nonprofits that we would be entertaining offers from at some point. The first step bureaucratically, though, is we had to go out for public comment on this relocation plan. So we are currently in that period. And what the relocation plan does is it's one component of the HUD disposition, and it's there in case any of the existing tenants are displaced from the housing unit. And what our plan is, which we've done this with HUD's guidance, is to provide each of those tenants with a Section 8 voucher. Essentially, they call it a tenant protection voucher. So all 42 households would receive a tenant protection voucher if it's approved by HUD. And they could take that on a voluntary basis and move anywhere, just like a Section 8 voucher. It's mobile, so you can go anywhere. What the LOI did in the discussions with the nonprofits is, and the good news piece of this, I think I can report, it appears that virtually all, and I'll come back to this, but virtually all of the tenants will be able to remain in place should they so choose to. So the nonprofits value affordable housing. Some, and you can imagine like Vera French, do have populations that they work with that at some point, if a tenant would take their voucher and move out, they would have then a housing unit that they could offer to their Vera French clients that they're working with. Like Vera French has a number of units, if you know, up off of kind of off of Brady by the Tysons there, if you're familiar with that, off 37th Street, I think 35th, 37th, I guess, 37th. And around town. I mean, I'm just giving that as an example. So the idea being that Vera French as one example of the 3 owns units currently, and they do have some folks that they provide support services through. So long-term, that's what could happen with some of the units, but they've made the pledge that if they can acquire these units, they would retain the current tenants there for as long as, you know, they would choose to. And then if they choose to take their voucher and go elsewhere, they still have to be the same rent assistance, and it actually might be a win-win, is I guess where I'm headed. It's a long way of saying I think it's an opportunity for the tenant. If they would like to move, they actually can now move, which they wouldn't have been able to under the public housing program before. And the nonprofits are indicating that the folks would be able to remain if they so choose to, which is great for a number of the tenants as well, because some of them have voiced, you know, it would be preferable to stay there because moving is not fun anyway. So that's the main part of the story, backstory, I guess. Then where this comes in, and as I'm noting, it may not apply very often for very many of the 42 households, but I'm gonna pick on Habitat for just a second, not pick on them, but I'm gonna use them as the example. As one of the other 3 nonprofits, they are interested in 1 or more of these single-family houses. So there are 8 single-family houses. If And Habitat, as you're probably aware, Habitat offers financing for clients of their own. And so the theory is, if, you know, if it's a, take the scattered site units out for a second, the normal habitat model would qualify someone for the habitat program. They would acquire a vacant lot and build a house, and that household that they're building it for would provide some sweat equity in building that house, right? And then they would move into it and they would make payments through the financing that Habitat has arranged. So as I understand their offer in this case, they would acquire an already built house that's maybe needs some rehab, maybe not right away. Actually, they're all in rentable condition. And they think that they would like to go through the Habitat process to see if any of the current tenant households might qualify. So in a similar way, some of the tenants who may not be able to qualify for conventional financing might be able to qualify for Habitat financing. Yeah, yeah.
So the tenants that you're speaking of, or the tenant would be the tenants that are currently there?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
that was one of my questions, so you answered it, so, okay, thank you.
Yep. I know there's a lot of moving pieces with this, so stop me if you get confused with it, because I'm confused most days. But so if the tenant house, so here's the win-win: if the tenant household is able to qualify for Habitat financing, then they could actually acquire this house, and so Habitat might not actually own it very long. It might just be a pass-through. Habitat would own it, and then I'm presuming, I don't know what the timetable is for Habitat and how they go through it, and maybe they would do some volunteer rehab on certain units, or maybe they'd volunteer to paint, and I'm not sure yet. We don't have all those details worked out, but in theory, that's one scenario on how it could work out. What I don't know, and I'm trying to get to the point I know, but the reason for that HUD requires the relocation plan is, and I don't know that it'll work this way, but let's say that Habitat really wants to buy these 3 of the 8 houses, and they try to qualify those 3 households, and 2 of them qualify, but 1 does not. So my question, and I'm not sure of this yet, so I don't want to speak for Habitat, but it is possible that Habitat could say, we're still acquiring that house. And it fits well for our model. And if they do say that, and as part of our negotiation, it's possible that that household would then have to take their voucher and move. So that would be, in this scenario, that's 1 out of 42 that would be faced with relocation. And that's where the value of this plan comes in. And what it does is, and I'll jump to the chase, but if you jump to page 16 of the plan, there's some descriptions of this before you get there, but the idea is that the amount of assistance, if you look at like the per unit column, we are offering that we would provide some counseling services to help figure out where they might move to, and if they have any other counseling needs that would come along with it, as it can be a stressful event. The cost to hire a mover, we can also help them with, if they choose to move on their own and don't want someone else helping with that, but buying boxes and those sorts of things that they might need. Security deposits on the new unit, sometimes that can be double the rent amount, so we build a budget in there for that. Credit check fees, sometimes when you're applying to a place, they would request that, and then a contingency line item. So the theory is that if in fact that scenario comes up where, and I don't know that that's going to happen, I think Habitat may actually feel like, let's just see how many people qualify, and if somebody doesn't qualify, then we won't buy that house. I kind of feel like they may end up saying that, but I just haven't confirmed it with them, and so I wanted to give you that option. That's what this plan is for. It's one component of the whole disposition plan, but it's actually the only piece that has a narrative to it. The rest of it is all like environmental reports and appraisals and those things. So that's why HUD requires that this relocation plan have a 30-day comment period, because it's the best document out there that kind of explains what's happening with this disposition. So with all that, I think you guys are up to speed. I just wanted to kind of give you that long backstory of from here. And I guess the finishing point would be where it goes from here. The city council will be considering this the second cycle of the month of January. If it would be approved, then we submit the application to HUD, and that's what starts a 90-day period where HUD reviews all of the above documents and they decide whether or not to approve our plan to convey to these three nonprofits and one or more tenants housing. And then if they approve it, then we would move into, and that likely wouldn't happen until later this spring, but then we would move into basically decertifying as public housing. 42 tenants, we would need to apply for vouchers on their behalf. When they get those, they could make the choice, and we're going to talk through this with tenants. They would have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to move. I'm just putting you on notice, city and or new owner, that I want to move, and then they could take their voucher, and I think they have 120 days, 90 days or 120 days to move under Section 8 rules. So, and nonprofits may take a while to get the funding. You know, that's the other thing we need to negotiate with nonprofits. I mean, what if they've applied for a grant to acquire one or more of these properties? Maybe that grant comes in the fall, so, you know, the closing may not happen right away either. So a lot of that stuff I just don't know yet, but that kind of gives you a flavor of kind of if everything would be approved, this is kind of how things are moving down the track, so.
So nothing locks them in right now?
Correct. Right.
Just because, well, all the times things are in the air, but, you know, the last year, everything.
True.
Been in the air, or even higher in there, you might say, or the
Right.
world's spinning fit. At least a lot of things are changing quicker than normal, so,
Right.
okay.
Thanks for bearing with me, though. That's what I know about the process anyway.
The contingency, $840, what, for, like, what would be included in that? Or what is that actually? That was on page 16, when you broke down you have a breakdown of the services and assistance that would be provided for one if they chose to move.
Right, that is a good question. I am thinking, I'm looking for the narrative discussion. I think it may just be, and I'll be honest, we're not the first PHA that's considered this, so we sort of copied and pasted from somebody else's. So I think what we did was we probably,
Miscellaneous.
yes. I think they found it's useful to just kind of have a contingency. My guess is from some of the research we'd done here a few months back, some communities may find that, you know, what if, oh gosh, there's a medical, I'm moving, but I need to pay a fee to perhaps a different pharmacy or something in a different city where I'm going to. And so I think they've built in some of those kinds of contingencies just to kind of help cover things in the event that, you know, something unforeseen pops up, so.
Bruce, on page 7, with the overview of disposition strategy, with being in good standing in order to get the voucher, is that going to affect people that have been, I know that there's been a lot of COVID relief through Davenport, which has been amazing, but are there people that are affected right now that are not considered in good standing at this point with this program?
Their rent is based off their income, so if they were affected by COVID, that's already been handled. We do have some people that are behind on their rent for various reasons, so, you know, we would look at those. But as far as COVID related, we shouldn't have anything like that because their rent is based off their income.
I will say that language kind of is included just as a caveat in the event. I mean, this could take some time to unfold. So what if in May, a tenant, you know, has a major lease violation, you know, this is basically set up to be able to say, well, you know, if they were being removed from the program, we would follow our normal procedure. And if they are, then yeah, they may not be, if they're kicked off the program, they may not be eligible for the voucher. However, on that note, not that you've asked this point, but if you're curious, if that happens, let's say, or let's forget kicking off the program, let's just say we have a vacant unit, right? You know, let's just say someone does move out, they port to another city. Oh, they can't do that. They leave the, God forbid I'm saying this on a mic, but they pass away. So we have a vacant unit, and we have a nonprofit that wants to acquire it. HUD will provide a voucher to us to be able to provide to, so we'll have, our understanding anyway is that we will have 42 vouchers at the end of this for our community. So it helps in that regard, and then on top of it, we've got a nonprofit that's all three that are committed to long-term affordability. So far anyway, I mean, moving is a pain, and this process will not be easy, I know, but in the big picture, I think this is a win-win anyway for where we're headed, so.
Bruce, you had on your cover letter here, though, was that some of the data wasn't included in here, and that was the appraisal of the 21 properties, which can be sent upon request. Can we
Yeah.
get that?
Yes, in fact, I've got a copy here of the executive.
Okay.
Mind reader,
Like
mind
you
reader.
do.
And there was also like the map of the locations of the houses. I noticed that was on the other place. Do you have any of those then too, or?
I'm not sure if I brought a map with me, but yeah, I can email you all that information if that's easiest for you. The appraisal, it's a long document, but I think this is like a 6-page kind of executive summary that I'll just send you that maybe via PDF. And then the map we have, they get a little nervous, I know, about us making it too specific. So it's kind of like a citywide map with some really fat push pins, so you don't know exactly where it is, but it'll give you an idea of where they're
On
where
the
they're at.
appraisals, you don't give the addresses on those?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The addresses are given, the map is what I thought you were asking about. So
Well, yeah, I was, but if you've got those, if the addresses are on them, then,
oh, if that's all you need, then yeah,
Yeah.
that's super easy. So,
okay.
okay.
Okay, do we have to do action on this, Destiny? That's just discussion.
No, this was just discussion.
So, okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Bruce or Destiny?
None at this time.
Okay, well, I think we talked during our few minutes there, or at least the last couple minutes since I wasn't late, but before we had time to start, about our next two meetings, January 25th and February 27th. So if there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll see you, later in the month.